welcome to Storm Reads, and today I'm going to be kind of doing a what I've read, what I'm currently reading, and what I'm going to read kind of recap of last week from like the 9th to the 15th. And sorry if I'm all shiny, but it is super hot up here. I'm going to have to bust out the air conditioner. I've been trying to put it off because we've had some cold nights and the air conditioner's in one of my windows, so I have plastic over it. But I think it's about time to bust it out because I'm getting really hot. Okay, anyway. So, I think I read around 9 or 10 books. Most of them were audiobooks. I'm trying to do the book a day in May. And I'm trying to get ahead because I do have some hefty books coming and some ebooks. And I need to get to them. And audiobooks just go, I can read them quicker because I can do them when I'm like cleaning house or outside in my garden. And all those kind of things, where the other ones I can't. So, hopefully I don't get behind, but I'm doing pretty good right now. Anyway, the first book is Bigfoot in the Bronx by Hunter Shea, and I gave this 3 stars. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more romp and chomp action that he normally has in a lot of his creature features. This one was a little bit more relaxed, I think, and you got the POV of the Bigfoot, so you kind of felt sorry for the Bigfoot. And you were, you felt bad for the people that was in the wake of the Bigfoot, but you also felt sorry for the Bigfoot because he's been misplaced. These 2 guys went hunting, and they found this Bigfoot, and they thought he was dead, and he'd only been tranquilized, and they brought him back, and he wakes up and then wreaks havoc and everything. And, it was fun. It was entertaining. It just wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, but that's okay. But I give it 3 stars. And then the next one I have is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. You're probably glad you don't have to see this book anymore. And I finally got it done. And it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. It's a young adult contemporary romance, and so a lot of teen angst. And sometimes I can handle that. But this one, the Liz in this book kind of just, it was a little over the top sometimes. And you just wanted to reach in there and grab her and smack her around a bit. And it's about Liz, who kind of lives her life by romantic comedies because her mom taught her like the meaning of life through romantic comedies when she was younger, and she died when she was like around 8 years old, I think. So she's always been partial to romantic comedies and stuff that makes her feel close to her mother. And there was this boy that she had a crush on when she was 8, but he moved away, and he's come back as a high schooler. It's like their senior year, I think, and their prom is coming up, and her goal is to have her romantic moment by having this guy ask her to the prom, but she doesn't know anything about him now, and she doesn't really have quite an in with him as she used to. That the guy next door that she can't stand is Michael's friend, so she's going to have to go through West to get to Michael, and of course we know that things aren't going to go quite as she has planned. And she does learn some life lessons and stuff, but on the journey there, I wanted to smack her a few times. So it gets 3 stars because it is cute, but aggravating at times. And I do think that a lot of people who really enjoy young adult contemporary will probably enjoy this. Then the next one is The Vine Witch by Luana G. Smith, I believe. And if you see me looking down, it's because I got my computer in front of me, because I would not remember all this stuff without it. And it's Vine Witch number 1, and it's about Elena, who is a Vine Witch, and she had a curse put on her years ago, and she's coming awake from the curse at the beginning. She makes her way back to the Chateau Renard, I think, yeah, Renard, and that's where she was a Vine Witch, and she finds out that her grandmere has sold it to this guy named John Paul. John Paul wants to make a quality wine from the vineyard, but he doesn't believe in witches and things like that. He believes in science. So they kind of bump heads a little bit, and she's also out for revenge because of who put the curse on her in the first place, which she thinks is her ex-fiance. But when he ends up murdered, and they had been seen having a big fight, so of course she is going to be the one that everybody comes for, and she gets thrown into jail, and things happen, and all this kind of stuff. And it was kind of part paranormal, historical, kind of fantasy type meets mysteries, which is probably why I liked it, because there was that element of who killed her ex-fiance and everything. And I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars. You know, like I said, it was enjoyable. It was something different. I found it on Kindle Unlimited, and it had free audio, so I thought, why not? I'll just give it a try. It does, I think maybe it's either a series or a trilogy, I'm not sure, but I do know that there's 2 other books, and I believe they're both on Kindle Unlimited too, so I may go ahead and try the next one and see what I think of it. I think it's more based on, I don't know if they're like series or companions or whatever. I know what I could gather from what I looked at the second one, that it was based on one of the ladies that, or witches that was in the prison thing where she was, or whatever. So it's kind of like her, what happens to her afterwards, I guess. Maybe, it sounded like it might be interesting, so we'll see. And anyway, next. So I did a re-listen of Crime and Poetry by Amanda Flowers. It's the first book in the Magical Bookshop mystery series. Killing Time with Cozies was doing this knockout challenge where you had to read 2 books about books that were cozy mysteries, and they did Crime and Poetry and Books Can Be Deceiving. Books Can Be Deceiving is from one of my very favorite series, and so I knew a little bit more about that one, but I didn't remember anything really about Crime and Poetry, so I went ahead and re-listened to it. And I would like to continue on with the series, so I thought this was a good way to do that, re-listen to the first one, and then I can go on. And this one is about Violet, and her grandmother deceives her by saying that she's dying and needs her to come home. And she gets there and finds out that her grandmother's in good. And anyway, she wanted Violet to come back home because she needs her to be the caretaker of their magical bookshop that they have and everything. And while she's there, there's this old man who dies in a carriage, and find out that it was murder. And she finds out that that was actually her grandmother's kind of like boyfriend. And so she's like, oh, maybe there's some things about my grandmother I don't really know, because she's been gone for a while. And the only bad thing is her grandmother ends up being a suspect because of the guy, I think his name was Bernard or something like that. Anyway, he left her in his will, and so it makes her like prime suspect, so Violet has to figure out what happened. And overall, it was enjoyable. I gave it 4 stars. And so, yeah, I can't wait to continue on with the series to see what happens with Violet and her grandmother and the magical bookshop. Then the next one I have is Whispering Rock, which is number 3 in the Virgin River series by Robin Carr. And I buddy read this with my friend Barb. And this one is about Mike and Bree. And Mike is one of Jack's fellow, I think it's Marines that they were in. But I know he's a military guy. And he's a bit of a womanizer. He's been married a couple of times. And you get to know about him in the second book. And you also get to know about Bree, who is Jack's sister and everything. And she's going through a really bad divorce. And she's very vulnerable. And she doesn't want anything to do with Mike, really. Because she knows that he's a womanizer. But then something happens in book 3, and Mike is the one that can kind of get her out of the depression that she is in, and so they become really good friends at first, and then, of course, it's a romance, so we know how that goes. And it's just a nice, fluffy romance. It's definitely a lot more fluffy and sweet than the TV series. So if you've ever watched the Netflix series and you think that's too much drama, then you should try the books, because it's not quite as much drama. There's always some elements in it that are dramatic, but it's not over the top like the TV show. There were some sad things in this one that almost made me cry, and I don't like that. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. And then the next book I have is Undercover Kitty by Sophie Ryan, and this is the Second Chance Cat Mysteries number 8. And this one is about well, a little backstory. Sarah works in a store where she refurbishes old things, and it's kind of, I can't remember what it's called, treasures something, or anyway, but she refurnishes and stuff old things and makes them new again. She's got a cat named Elvis, and she has a bunch of friends and everything, and her grandmother that are seniors, and they've become private investigators. Like, one of them has the license, and they call themselves the Charlotte Angels, and you'll get all of that if you start at the beginning and go through, which is why I think it's good to start cozies at the beginning, because you get all the backstories on all the characters and everything. Okay, so Charlotte and her friends have been asked to look into something that's happened at these cat shows. They think there's some cheating involved. So Charlotte asked Sarah if she can borrow Elvis and enter him into the cat contest, so that they can kind of have an in and everything. And Sarah promises herself she's not going to get wrapped up in all their stuff, but she does anyway, because one, she's kind of gets curious and nosy, and then two, she doesn't want to see anything happen to the older people that she likes, so she tries to make sure that everything comes out okay. Her best friend is Nick, who is the policeman, and his grandmother is one of the Charlotte's Angels. I can't remember exactly which one his grandmother is. I don't think it's Charlotte. I think it's Rose. But it's one of them. I can't remember. And so, so they're always in the middle of their investigations and everything. And it's just a fun one. It's not probably one of my favorite cozy mystery series, but it is a fun one that I like. Seems like I like a lot of cat cozies, even though I'm not really a big cat person. I'm dogs all the way here. I've never owned a cat, so I'm not a cat person. But there's a lot of cats in cozies, and they always seem to be ones that I like. And anyway, I gave this 4 stars. So the next one that I have is called Quicksand Pond by Janet Taylor. I think it's Leslie. I'm not sure exactly how you say it. You'll see it here, hopefully. But it's a middle grade contemporary, and I was flipping through Libby trying to find a short middle grade book that I could kind of listen to while I was out in my garden, to kind of give me a book for my book a day in May. I was just trying to get there, something quick. And I found this one, and it's about a young girl, Jessie, whose father brings her to a small town where the house is right beside this place called Quicksand Pond. And she meets this other girl there who has a father that's not very nice, but she's got circumstances in her life that has propelled her to how she is. She has gotten into trouble a few times and everything, and so people think she's a bad egg because of her family. Her grandfather was convicted of murder, and so evidently that means that their whole family is bad. And that's just how the town is and how the town acts about things. And when Jessie finds out a lot of these things, she worries about their friendship and maybe that they shouldn't hang out anymore because of that. But then when something happens and Terry is accused of something, Jessie has to kind of learn to think for herself and to decide for herself and not judge this girl based on her family and what has been in her family, and judge her by her character and how she knows her to be, and she doesn't think that she would have done the bad thing that they're talking about. And so it's just basically kind of learning to judge a person for who they are and not their family and stuff like that. So it was good, it was quick, and I gave it 3 stars. And then the next one I have is Pizzazz by Sophie Hinn. And I just got this recently in the mail as an e-arc. I believe it's from Simon & Schuster. Yeah, Simon & Schuster. And it's kind of a graphic novel, but kind of not, because like it's got like a lot. Ooh, sorry about that. It's got a lot of words and stuff in it, but it has a ton of graphics too. Like there's a lot of pages that are just mostly graphics. So I'm not quite exactly sure what you call that. But I call it cute because that's what it was. And it's about Pizzazz, who is a superhero. But it's not easy being super, and especially if you're embarrassed about your superpower and she doesn't like it. And she doesn't want to tell you what her superpower is, and you don't find out until the very end, which was one of the things that was aggravating me at first. So at least you find out what her superpower was, because I was getting kind of aggravated. But this is just kind of the story about Pizzazz and how she doesn't have any friends, and she had to move. They had to move to a different town, and her old friends thought she was cool as a super, but these people don't seem to care that she's a superhero. And it's hard to make friends when you have to zoom out to save the world in the middle of things all the time. And so, yeah, it's just about her, and about her trying to do something good and save this park, because she become the eco monitor of her class, and this girl Ivy wanted her to save this park, and how when she tries to do things and be kind of super about it, it doesn't quite go so well. And she has to learn that sometimes you gotta use your brain and not your superpowers, I guess. And it is a series, and so I would probably continue on with the series to see what happens to Seth. But I thought it was cute. 3 stars. I do think that kids will really enjoy it. And then the next one I have is another audiobook called Murder by Page 1 by Olivia Matthews. And this is the Peach Coast Library #1. And this is about Marvy, who's a librarian from Brooklyn. And she ends up moving to a small town in Georgia. And so she's got a lot of kind of acclimating herself to a different lifestyle. Small town Georgia in the South is a lot different than Brooklyn. And she's always having to write down things that people are saying, and the things that they say, like when they say that he's just picking, and her friend has to translate and said he's just teasing her, because she's like, he's just picking, whatever. And so it's got like things, like that she has to kind of keep track of, so she knows what it is. And her friend Joy there has a bookstore, and they were having a book signing, and this one author that was kind of troublesome, she's from the town. She, not a lot of people are that impressed with her, and they don't like her very well. And Joy's one of them, but she's having this book signing and everything, so she's trying to be friendly, and then she's not coming out when she thought she should, so she went to the back to check on her and finds her dead. So of course, since she's not a big fan of her, and it is her store and everything, so she is the #1 suspect for what happened. And Marvy knows that she didn't do it, and so she is trying to find who might have had a reason to kill her, so that she can give that information to the police. I did like the fact that she wasn't necessarily trying to so much solve the crime as she was trying to give the police another suspect. So she was looking into people, but she was really wanting to just get her friend out of trouble. So she's like, oh look, this guy Willie could have done it. The ex-wife of Fiona's husband that had passed on, the son, she's trying to give them all these, but they're not really wanting to listen to her. They're really zoned in on Joy being the one. So then she does end up having to try to figure things out a little bit more than she was really wanting to, and everything. So I thought that was a little bit different and everything, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was a decent start to a series, and I will continue the series. I do believe this is the only one that's out right now, because I think it just came out this year, I think. And so, yeah, it's the only one out so far, but I will continue it. I love library cozies, any kind of bookish cozies, so yeah, it's up there. Then the next one, and the last book that I read for the week, is Stamped Out by Tonya Kappas, and this was a really short one, and I was just trying to find something short to slip in there, and it was like less than 4 hours, I believe, on audio. And it is #1 in the mail carrier series, and it's about Bernadette, who is a widowed mail carrier, and she has raised her kid with the help of her friend Mac, who was her husband's best friend. And she thought she knew everything about Mac, since they've become really close friends raising her child. and everything. But then she hears that he's going to be buying the country club in town and maybe building condos, and a lot of people aren't happy about that. And so she's confused because she thought that would have been something that he would have told her about and everything. Well, then we find out that he argues with this guy who was supposed to be selling him the stuff, and when that guy ends up dead, Mac is the suspect. And even though she thinks that Mac's keeping a lot of secrets from her, that she wasn't quite sure about those things, she does know that Mac is no killer, and so she has to try to figure out who it was that done it. I guessed the killer, but I didn't guess the motive. I always do that. I'm really good at figuring out who the killer was, but figuring out the motive is a little bit harder for me. And so it was good. I liked it. I think there are some more out in this series, and so I will continue on with the series at some point. It might not be something that I do right away, but I am kind of curious about Bernadette and her milk carrying ways. And so I give this one 3 stars, and that's everything that I read. And so on to what I am currently reading before this video gets super long. So I am reading Blood Like Magic, which is one of the hefty books that I was talking about that might take a while. I am currently like 75 pages, yeah, about 75 pages in, and it's 485 pages, and I'm not a quick reader when it comes to print books, and right now it's a little boring. It's kind of starting to pick up a tiny bit. If anybody's read it and they know about it, this is an arc I got from Simon & Schuster, and I really want to like it. It's a witchy book, and I like witchy books, and I'm wanting to like this, and I'm just not really sure exactly if I'm going to or not. I do know it's about Voya, who she has to accept the task to kill her first love, but the problem is that she's never been in love. So yeah, kind of curious how that's gonna go. It's okay. And then I'm also reading Blood Heir by Ione Andrews, and this is the first book in the Aurelia Rider series. And I really like the Kate Daniels series, and this is a spin-off from that. And so it's kind of fun to be in Atlanta again with some of the people from Kate Daniels series and everything. We're getting to know a few characters that we didn't really get too much of in the Kate Daniels series, and we're getting some of them in this one, so that's been kind of cool and everything, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm about 41% or somewhere around there into it, so gotta get that done. And I also started the audiobook of Buttercream Bump Off by Jen McKinley, but I'm not very far into it, so I don't really know a lot about it, except for it's about, I think, Mel and Angie. I think that's the 2 characters' names. I've only read the first book in this series, so this is the second one. So I don't really know a lot about the characters. I know they own a bakery shop or something, or cupcake shop or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, I know that I wanted to try another one to see what I'm going to think of this series, because you can never base you can't base cozies to me on the first book, so gotta give it more than that. And so that's the only books that I'm currently reading right now, but I do have a few books that I need to get to. So the ones that are coming up are Last Fallen Star by Gracie Kim, which is a Rick Riordan Presents book, and I don't remember anything about it, but the picture's here. And then Death Becomes Her by Nancy Coco is Oregon Honeycomb book 1. I think that's what it, something like that. Anyway, it's the Killing Times with Cozy book club pick for this month, and they're going to be talking about it on Saturday, I believe, so I need to get that done. And then I would also like to try to fit in Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Monasala, so I'm going to try that. But these are all books that I have ebooks for, and I think I can get an audiobook for Death Becomes Her, but the other ones probably not, so that's why I'm afraid that I'm going to get behind on the book a day in May, so try to get it in there. Anyway, So that's everything I got to say for today. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.